a Piston fan. Their slogan was, we come to work. That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governors can come in here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people have lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption, they lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we took 4 pay cuts, and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly what we got, a lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to. Not eligible for Social Security, so the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself blood pressure or paying bills.
$754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor is allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I don't know when the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100, and I'm 81 years old, and I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for.
I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough, they adapt, but only can do so much when your politicians ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not gonna let Detroit be erased, bulldozed, or whatever. We're gonna fight to the bitter end. Detroit gonna survive.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pacman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pacman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
You know, sometimes when I'm walking down the street, I'm not necessarily looking out and seeing all these water-wasting lawns and people that aren't as connected to their neighbors and their lives as they could be. I'm walking down the street looking, going, edible oases, rainwater, fed landscape, and just looking at the possibility of these sort of landscapes up and down the streets of neighborhoods and communities all across this world. Small actions do ripple and they add up and they have a cumulative impact. And so when you're building upon your small mindful actions, you know, you have the confidence and the ability to take on something a little bit greater. So that could be nice. This, in the context of where we're at as a planet with climate change and these really big issues and people that are more disconnected and less skilled than ever, it becomes even more amazing and powerful how much of a solution this is to design these ecological gardens and to come together with shared vision and shared voice. There's never been a time where your choices have mattered more. Doing something as simple as us transforming a landscape creates a model that anybody could look at far and wide, and you're sharing food and connecting and building skills together in your own neighborhood. It's a richer way to live in normal times, but in the new normal of climate change and erratic weather and economic upheaval, it becomes essential. Whether it's me, you, Gandhi, Che, MLK, Willy Wonka, whoever, past, present, or future, the power of our daily actions is all that we have. You know, and like our community said, give me a place to stand and a lever long enough and I'll move the world. And that's what those simple actions do. They move the world every day.
When I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are three incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use. It's a lovely word. And then the last point about corporate cooking that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. What they're good at, in general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop, you have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see the kinds of foods you end up with are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. Basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show. Happy Monday, January 5th, 2015. Really? We're there. We made it. Happy New Year. It's our first live broadcast of 2015. We are so thrilled that you could be here with us. I know what you're saying. Oh, Bill just had all that time off. Where's Bill? Look, I was asking the same thing, to be perfectly honest. But you've heard all this stuff about that flu epidemic. How it's just ravaging the country. Everybody's getting the flu. It's highly contagious, making you sick as a dog. Well, it hit Bill. Bill got hit. He made the effort, man. I give him credit for that. He texted me early this morning and just said, ain't happening. He had a bit of a rough evening. So he's sleeping in, hopefully feeling better, going to be back with you very soon. It doesn't seem to be one of those things that takes too long to get over, but it is very serious. It's very contagious. It's very sick. So we are holding down the fort while Bill is resting and recovering at home. Trust me, I know he wanted to be here to celebrate the first show of 2015. Hope you all had a great new year, had a good holiday season. We are thrilled to be here back taking your calls at 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. Oh, by the way, my name is Peter Ogburn. I'm filling in for Bill today while he's out recovering. It's nice to see the team again. I've been off for like 2 weeks.
I know. We didn't know if you could find the place anymore.
I found the place. I'm fine. I was prepped and ready. Thrilled to be back and joining the show. Elisa Murphy running the board this morning. Elisa.
Hey, good morning. Good to have you back.
Good to see
Happy
you
2015.
Happy 2015. Alicia Cruz screening your calls at 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. Of course, if you were watching us on Free Speech TV on the Dish Network or DirecTV or on youtube.com/TawkrTV, TawkrTV, you are doing so because of the good work of Cyprian Bowling, who, by the way, wasted no time in giving me grief for the fact that Alabama lost the game. Don't even. I see you looking for the audio. Don't you dare play it while I'm in this chair. Oh, that is
sweet music to your ears.
Cold-blooded. The both of you conspire. Kill that. Get that out of here. I can't even. Cyprian, first thing he says to me this morning. Yeah, look at, get out of here. Get out of here with that. First thing he says to me this morning. Because he sees I'm wearing a red sweater. Nice sweater. What now? Now, come on, Cyprian. Right off the bat. Happy New Year to you, too.
I know Bill was wanting to come in here just to give you grief today. He said when he was flying back from Bend, Oregon to SFO, there's like a ton of Duck fans on the plane.
America, we are all Oregon Duck fans now. Right? The Ohio State Buckeyes and their Urban Meyer, their head coach, is a horrible human being. And I hope that the Ducks slaughter the Buckeyes.
He is a horrible coach.
He's the worst.
He is evil.
He good coach, knows what he's doing. Horrible human being.
Yeah.
Horrible human being. I hope horrible things happen to Urban Meyer and the Ohio State Buckeyes. All right?
But go Big Ten.
I'm not quite ready to put a nail in the coffin of the SEC. And everybody else is, but I'm not quite there yet. I had a good holiday break. You want to hear about it? No? Too bad. I'm going to tell you anyway. I was in the great American South for 2 weeks. I spent some time in Charleston, my hometown, which is awesome. I didn't see Ike.
Oh, he was looking for you.
Shout out to Ike.
We were trying to give him some feelers how to find you.
I was down there. I was in the mix. Trust me, I was not hard to miss down there. I spent some time there, and then took the family to the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. Wonderful!
Nice.
I love the national parks. I am now I'm a little slow to the game because my parents never took me to the whole national park thing when I was younger. So now I'm doing it with my kids. It's the greatest thing ever. It doesn't cost anything to get into the Smoky Mountain National Park. Some of them charge you money, and that's cool. It's totally worth it, but it doesn't cost you any money. You got 800 miles of hiking trails out there. You hike to these waterfalls. We're looking for bears. It's the best.
How was the weather there?
A little rainy.
That's
a little
not bad.
rainy. Not super cold, but we fit in plenty of hikes. It was nice. Then we took a little trip to Asheville.
Oh yeah, the 880 Revolution.
Very quietly snuck into Asheville and.
How do you sneak in quietly to anything, Peter?
Yeah, that's a good point. We went to Asheville. Shout out to our good friends at 880 The Revolution there. Wonderful city. Great breweries, great food. Just awesome time. And I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I went to Dollywood.
Oh.
I unabashedly, unironically love Dollywood. Dolly Parton is my spirit animal. And I had the greatest time.
Didn't you see her recently? Was she touring? And you
no,
saw
I
her?
didn't. I haven't seen that. I saw Willie Nelson. A lot of people get confused.
Yeah.
But I love Dollywood. I love it so much. And they have her tour bus there with an actual wig she wore on tour. And you get to tour the whole thing. You get to go through the whole big Dolly Parton museum. You get to see all the pictures of her growing up. It's got her
a kid in a candy store.
Like a replica of her old house that she lived in with 16 brothers and sisters. Not really, but this tiny little house they fit 10 people into. Plus they have coasters. And coasters are the greatest. They have roller coasters. And what they do there, because it's in Tennessee, is they have all this heavy, angry food at every turn, right? Foot-long corn dogs. And they have a place they're making pork rinds fresh, right? There's this giant cauldron. They're making pork rinds. So you eat all this crud, and then you go ride on this loop-de-loop roller coaster. It's the greatest. It is America as hell. I loved it.
Funny.
I had so much damn fun.
That's great.
I'm telling you. I was so happy. All right. Well, but God, so much news has happened since we had our last live show here with the Bill Press team. So we're going to jump right into some news stuff because there are a lot of things we want to get your take on. Yesterday was the funeral service for the second New York City police officer that was gunned down. The man's name was Wenjin Liu. He was buried yesterday, or at his funeral yesterday. His partner, Rafael Ramos, was at his funeral was about a week ago. And you remember there was some controversy over New York City police officers who turned their back at Mayor Bill de Blasio when he spoke. There is this ongoing rift between the mayor and the police, and the mayor ran on police reform. New York City police reform, New York City Police Department needs to be reformed. And at the time, it had a lot to do with the whole stop and frisk and the way that things are conducted. But, Mayor Bill de Blasio won the ticket partially because he ran on reforming the police. So I guess you could say he's not the most popular person among the police department. But they have now turned this sort of brewing, simmering storyline of Bill de Blasio versus the police into a public show of disapproval at funeral services for slain police officers. Now, after the Eric Garner case, in which a New York City police officer murdered, and it was ruled a homicide, so it's murder, murdered an innocent, unarmed man by choking him to death, and was acquitted. Bill de Blasio said we need to take a better look at how the police do things. We need to take a look at police actions, at police protocols. We need to fix things. And some police officers took that to mean that he was being anti-cop or not, protecting the shield of, putting them in line of criticism. And so when one mentally disturbed man acted out against two police officers and murdered them and then himself, some New York City police officers put that at the feet of Bill de Blasio and said, if you hadn't been running around being anti-cop and talking bad about police officers, maybe this wouldn't have happened. And so they feel that by him speaking at these funerals, he's somehow being a hypocrite. Now, I got a couple of things wrong with this, in my view. I don't think that funerals are the best place for protests of any real kind. You've got family there. It's obviously very sad what happened to him. You want to send him off. You want to talk about his great work. You want to talk about the tragedy that happened. He's a young man. He's 32 years old, this police officer. So Bill de Blasio gets up to speak, and a lot, from the pictures I've seen, I don't have any definite numbers of who did and who didn't, but a lot of New York City police officers turned their backs at the same time as the mayor began to speak, which is tacky. Petty at best, but it's tacky. It's tacky. You got a problem with the way that the mayor is doing things? That's cool. You get to have that opinion. You get to express it however you'd like. But you think the best thing to do is to stage some sort of a silly protest in front of this murdered officer's family because you're a little upset about what the mayor has had to say? Grow up. Grow up. Don't be such a baby. You're going to ruin this guy's funeral service? Because you're gonna make your point? Are you gonna make your point at this guy's funeral? It's silly. It's silly. And the bigger point is that these police officers do not get it. There is a major problem with law enforcement in this country. A major problem. Is every cop a bad cop? Absolutely not. I'd say the vast majority of police officers out there know what they're doing. They got a good head on their shoulders. They've been trained well. But there is a problem. So turning your back on the problem isn't going to fix it. These guys are dangerous. If you think that the solution to a problem is throwing a little fit because you don't like that the mayor is speaking at the funeral of a slain police officer, if you think that's the solution, grow up. Stop being such a baby. Let's play some of the clips from the mayor yesterday, Lisa. Bill de Blasio, first of all, talked about Officer Wen-Jin Liu. He's a good man.
Detective Wen-Jin Liu was a good man. He walked a path of courage, a path of sacrifice, and a path of kindness.
That's right. That's what you do. That's what you do. Let's go to the governor, Andrew Cuomo. He talked at the funeral service. The first clip where he talks about thoughts and prayers.
Our thoughts and prayers go to the Liu family and to the entire NYPD family.
And let's finally that second clip of Police Chief Bill Bratton. You play that?
He was, after all, a good man, a humane man. He was a New York City cop.
That's what you do at the funeral. You don't get up there and make it all about you and your political statement and make a big show of turning your back to the mayor. That's not what you do. That's not what you do. 866-55-PRESS is our phone number. 866-557-7377. Was the New York City Police Department, were they out of line? Were they out of line by turning their backs to Mayor Bill de Blasio at the funeral of this slain officer. Is that too much? Is that too far, protesting at a funeral like that? Do they have a point? 866-55-PRESS. Do you think that the mayor went too far with some of his rhetoric? But I especially want to get your take on the protesting at the funeral of a New York City police officer. Is that out of line? 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. My name is Peter Ogburn. I am filling in for Bill Press today. We will be right back with your phone calls.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university?
Yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
is the Bill Press Show.
Yes, it is the Bill Press Show. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. Thank you all so much for tuning in and participating in the show. But you know, we have to have your participation here to make it happen. Not only on the phones at 866-55-PRESS, 865-557-7377, but also on Twitter at BP Show and at Peter Ogburn, both on Twitter. By the way, Holly was quick to point out, I mentioned that the police officer that choked Eric Garner to death was acquitted. He was not acquitted. He wasn't even indicted. That is the problem. Yes, I'm sorry. I misspoke. You're right, Holly. It was way worse than just being acquitted. It wasn't even brought to trial so that we could even find out the facts. Good point. 866-55-PRESS. Let's go to the phones, shall we? It is Saeed in Queens, New York. Saeed, welcome to the Bill Press Show.
Yes, good morning, Peter. I just wanted to say that I disagree with your synopsis that the police are wrong in turning their backs. They're players in the stage. This is a big stage, and they've been rehearsed to do this specifically for that reason, to go against whatever the mayor is saying pertaining to police brutality, pertaining to police conduct in general. As a matter of fact, they're prepped to respond in a like manner.
There's a great, let me just interrupt for just a second. There's a great photo out there, which I encourage you to find. I'll try and tweet it out if I can, of one police officer who didn't turn his back among a sea of like 24 in the photo, all of them with their back turned, and this one police officer who didn't turn his back. And I think that's a good point, Saeed, that they've been trained that way. But there's also, I think there's got to be some sort of respect for their own and respect for the fact that this man deserved a funeral, a proper send-off without controversy and protest.
Well, Peter, I agree with you, but I disagree with you in the fact when you look at the people who you're giving the gun and the badge to. You're giving it to predominantly white males who've been prepped with police brutality and racism in every major city and most minor cities.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's the and that's the issue, Saeed. Sorry to cut you off. We just got to run really quickly to Sherry in Chicago. Sherry, welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. What's your take?
Short and sweet, wrong place, wrong time. The mayor was wrong. The NYPD was wrong. A funeral, that situation is not the right time or place. Shame on both of them.
What did the mayor do? I mean, what did the mayor do, you think, that was bad?
The words, wrong place. I mean, the words, what he said, the speech was not was okay, but it was just, there's just a time and a place to do.
I hear what you're saying, Sherry, but I just don't agree with you. I don't think that the mayor did anything out of line at the funeral. He said some things leading up to it, which I thought were totally on the table, but he kept it very, very sincere and real at the funeral.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is The Bill Press Show. Not only can you find us on Twitter at BP Show, you can find me at Peter Ogburn, which is where Mama for Obama, our friend, writes in, says, these police officers were asked by the widow of Officer Liu to not protest at his funeral. The NYPD have no respect. Well said. Look, if you want to have a disagreement with the mayor, cool. This is America. You can have that disagreement. If you want to publicly go out and bash the mayor's approach on how he's talking to police, that's fair. I disagree with it. I think the mayor's doing a good job. I think de Blasio's doing a good job. I think he's addressing some uncomfortable issues that need to be addressed in his city. Hell, nationwide. But, I mean, you know, in his city, he's addressing them. He's taking them on head on. And so if you think that the best place to get your message out is at the funeral for one of your fellow fallen members, I think that's just way, way, way off base. 866-55-PRESS is our phone number. 866-557-7377. We're going to get right back to your calls in just a second, but I can't go any further without mentioning a very sad story yesterday. Stuart Scott, longtime ESPN broadcaster, sportscaster, completely revolutionized the way that sports reporting and sports broadcasting is done in this country. Passed away at the age of 49 years old. He had battled cancer for many, many years. A lot of people will recognize one of his most signature lines, which he uttered quite often on SportsCenter. Booyah! Booyah! That is Stuart Scott, who, you know, there's a lot to be said about the fact that he came into ESPN and SportsCenter at a time when it was kind of older, white golfing bros, and they treated it with a lot of reverence and respect, and they tried to be kind of like, you know, a CNN or an MSNBC of sports, and very very serious. And Stuart Scott came on and brought a lot of diversity to the network. He brought a lot of energy and excitement and young energy to the network. Totally changed the way that sports reporting is done today. And it's going to take years before we see the real impact of what Stuart Scott had on the broadcasting industry, because a lot of personality in the way he delivered things, involved himself with the athletes, right up in the mix. Really, really interesting guy. And it was in July of this year that he won, or he was given an award.
Last year.
Pardon me. Last year. Forget it's 2015 now. In July of last year, he was given an award by ESPN, and he talked about when you battle cancer and whether or not you lose your battle with cancer.
When you die, that does not mean that you lose to cancer. You beat cancer by how you live, why you live, and in the manner in which you live.
Strong stuff. I mean, look, we all know people who have battled cancer in our lives, and that is just such a powerful message, and it hit me really hard yesterday. So if you've watched sports in this country, you've watched Stuart Scott. So rest in power, Stuart Scott. Big fan, and sad to see him go. We're talking about the NYPD as well, and their protests against Bill de Blasio by turning their backs on him at the funeral of their fellow officer, Wenjin Liu. We go to Melvin in South Bend, Indiana. Melvin, called 866-55-PRESS. Melvin, what's happening?
Well, good morning, first of all.
Good morning, sir.
And I'll get right to the point.
Yes, sir.
How can we expect the police department in any city, especially New York, to respect the mayor, and they don't even respect the public? That's the whole problem. That's what took place with Eric Gardner. And it has nothing to do with color. I take Saeed, that first guy you had on there. It has nothing to do with color. It has something to do with authority. And we've given them too much authority without accountability.
I think it has something to do with color, but you're right. It has a lot to do with authority and power and the abuse of it. And that's why, to me, this idea that these police officers turned their back that way, it's emblematic of the whole problem with the police officers in this country. They are ignorant to the fact that needs reforming. The police community, the way that police do things in city to city to city, it needs to be reformed. And again, this isn't every police officer. There are a lot of police officers who realize this. I'm going to talk more in just a little bit about the police officer in Pittsburgh, the police chief in Pittsburgh, who said, my police force needs to address the way that we handle minorities in this city. We don't do a good enough job, and that is my New Year's resolution, is to treat racism and race relations between my police force and minorities in this community, to treat that with a little more seriousness. Now, it's not admitting that you're a bad person. It's not admitting that you've done something wrong. It's admitting that we've got a problem and we've got to step it up. You can't literally turn your back on the problem of police brutality, inequality, minorities with the police. They're literally turning their back and saying, oh, there's no problem here, man. No, there's no problem. We're good. We've got no problems. Joey in Chicago, called 866-55-PRESS.
Shame on them. Shame on them police officers. Them New York police officers are soft like Charmin, baby. Soft like Charmin. And how many bad police officers had that union gotten rid of, or them policemen turned in? 0, I believe. They got to start turning into bad cops if they want this to work. And by the way, if they don't respect the mayor, why should anybody respect them?
Good take, Joey in Chicago, called 866-55-PRESS. It's absolutely right, man. It's absolutely right. And there's this idea, this brotherhood, this fraternity. Give me a break. Get over yourselves. Don't act like a child at the funeral of one of your own. James in Battle Creek, Michigan. 866-55-PRESS is our phone number. James. What's your take?
Good morning. I agree with you, Peter. A funeral is not the forum for any type of protest. That's just not the case. But in regards to the mayor and the NYPD, what I see is a failure of relatability by the NYPD. The whole thing that started their disagreement with the mayor, or one of the things, is when he made the comments about what he had to tell his son in terms of how to act appropriately with the NYPD.
Yeah.
And because they do not have black sons and they are white, they cannot relate or understand that. And they took it out of context and took it as a slap.
There's something, I'm very quick to point out that, I have lived a fairly sheltered life. I grew up as a white man or a white male in the American South. So I realize I'm playing catch up here on a lot of issues. But one thing that has struck me through all of this talk of going back to Trayvon Martin, and then Michael Brown and Eric Garner and all these cases is that the black community knows, do not go to a police officer if you need help. That you're not going to get the help that you need. Me? Hell, I got no problems, man. But like he just pointed out, it's a real problem. The black community has been raised to know that you don't go to the police officer for help because you're not, more often than not, you're not going to get a fair shake. And they will assume that you've done something wrong. And when the mayor, who has a black son, talked about that, these police officers just can't deal with it. They can't accept it. It's childish. Jay in Los Angeles, California, up early or up late. Hey, Jay.
Up early.
You a thinker or a drinker?
No, well, I'm having some coffee right now. No,
There you go.
I don't drink very much.
Good morning, Jay. What's your take on this?
My take on this, and I bring this coming as a former Army Ranger, and these men are under discipline, and they're acting entirely without discipline.
I think that's fair.
And and then I look at so many police officers, they're so physically unfit that if somebody got inside their arm's reach, they're in trouble because they're physically unfit. They need the command is failing them as well.
Jay, it's something that people haven't talked about a lot, but you're not wrong necessarily. When you look at the Eric Garner video, the police officer who choked Eric Garner to death seemed to be in fairly good shape. But when you look at all the other officers that swarmed upon him, I can't say those are specimens in their peak physicality. No. 866-55-PRESS. We'll continue talking about this throughout the show because I think it's a big deal. And I think that, look, like I said, you disagree with Mayor Bill de Blasio, that's cool. I don't agree with I agree with what Bill de Blasio has had to say about the police. And I think it's silly and I think it's childish to turn your back on him at a funeral. But you want to turn your back on him at a public setting or at a speech, that's cool. You want to speak out about what he's had to say, cool with that too. But you really think that having this discussion or having this debate at the funeral service of one of your fellow officers is going to do you any favors? It's not. You look petty and you look childish. 866-55-PRESS. Can take a quick break. Talking to our friend Scott Bland from the National Journal's Hotline in just a few moments, as we do this time every Monday. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill. Our first live show of 2015 getting underway. Thanks for joining us.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
Yeah, I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found on the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is The Bill Press Show, 48 minutes past the hour. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill Press today. Bill got hit with the case of the flu overnight, so he is staying at home, thankfully, and so I'm stepping into the big chair. I've been off the grid for like 2 weeks, so I'm playing catch up as we go along. Okay, so follow along with me. We're all doing great together. Follow the show on Twitter at BP Show, and we're joined now, as we are every Monday, by our good friend Scott Bland, editor-in-chief at the National Journal Hotline. You can follow him on Twitter at Hotline Scott. Scott, happy Monday, happy 2015.
Thanks for having me on.
I've said 2014 a couple times today, so we're still getting there. So let's talk a little bit, because it was a busy weekend for 2016. In fact, National Journal has up their the GOP presidential power rankings. How are the Republicans looking? We got some new info over the weekend about 2016.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so first of all, it's going to be a crowded field. This is going to be a unique primary race as far as Republican presidential politics goes. There's no front runner really for the first. Well, I shouldn't say there's no front runner, but there's no kind of one person who is commanding most of the attention. If you had to make a bet right now on your one front runner versus the field, you'd absolutely take the field. It's really unclear.
There's no Hillary on the Republican side.
Exactly. There's no Hillary. There isn't even a Romney. Romney isn't Romney. Looking back to 2011 or 2012, and so when we were putting together the rankings, we were trying to think who's the most likely person to end up being the nominee. When summer 2016 rolls around, and it's very difficult. There's a lot of people bunched together right now. One thing we had to take into account late, though, was Mike Huckabee's announcement that he's going to be leaving Fox News to explore a presidential run. That's a pretty interesting development for a former winner of the Iowa caucuses back in 2008. And it remains to be seen how he can get back in the game after about 8 years out, and a few other things. But it's potentially a very interesting thing, again, given his success in that early stage.
He already sort of is coming off a little bit as the Santorum of the last presidential election. He's going to play that, conservative Christian role. And how is that going to impact? I guess you could call like a Jeb Bush a front runner. How is that going to impact someone who's a little more moderate like Jeb Bush?
Sure. There are a few ways. First of all, a Huckabee candidate would be a death blow to someone like Santorum, kind of one of the folks who's looking to make a little noise on the other side of the spectrum from the establishment on the Republican side. But also, it would have a potentially interesting effect because on someone like Jeb Bush, because Huckabee is not very well liked by the economic conservative wing of the Republican Party. The Club for Growth types, which really came out hard against him when he was starting to make a little push in 2008. And so the big question for Huckabee is whether he can expand his base beyond social conservatives, beyond evangelical voters, which he's very well positioned to take a huge chunk of, potentially, if he does run. But the question then for him becomes whether or not he could rally the rest of the kind of quote unquote conservative side of the party against, say, an establishment candidate, whether he could become that other choice to rally support against him. He had trouble with that in 2008. He wasn't able to kind of bring that entire side of the party together.
Well, one of the other interesting things that came out of the break was Marco Rubio said that Jeb Bush exploring his presidential run won't prohibit him from running. So it's the two Floridians battling it out. How does Marco Rubio fare in that battle?
Totally, and that's going to be one of the fascinating questions of 2015. Rubio probably has, in terms of kind of talent and upside on the Republican side, he probably has the most of it. But there's this question of to what extent does Bush potentially getting involved just totally like squeeze him out especially in terms of finances. If you look at all the people who have been most involved in raising money for Rubio as a senator, almost all of them have pledged themselves to Bush already. This includes like some of the co-chairs of Rubio's fundraising committee.
Oh, that's interesting.
And so that is a huge hurdle not to be overlooked. We still think, if Rubio does get in, he's just got kind of unmatched potential as far as the GOP field goes. And it's also important to remember that Bush has still only said he's going to explore a run, not that he is actually going to do it. And so there's this question of, he getting in or making this first move has given him the opportunity to try and consolidate as much of the establishment as he can.
Right.
If however much that is doesn't turn out to be enough by whatever metric they think that is, he still may not end up running.
Yeah.
In which case that would kind of open things back up again.
Yeah. No, it would turn it back into fruit basket turnover. All right. Good stuff. Scott Bland, editor-in-chief of the National Journal Hotline. Thanks so much, man. Happy New Year.
You too.
All right. We'll talk to you next week. That is Scott Bland here on the Bill Press Show. My name is Peter Ogburn filling in. We'll talk more about the presidential horse race and specifically some Mike Huckabee stuff with Jeremy Holden from Media Matters coming up here in about 15 minutes or so, 10 or 15 minutes. So stick around for that. Quick break. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000.
I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan. And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately I've been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
Lots of stuff coming up here on the Bill Press Show. Again, my name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press. We got Jeremy Holden, our buddy from Media Matters. He's going to be joining us at the top of the next hour to talk about Mike Huckabee and his run for president. Also, Justin Sink from The Hill will be joining us in the studio. And, of course, in just a couple of hours, Karl Frisch joins us as a friend of Bill, except it's not Bill, it's me, Peter Ogburn. Quick break, and then we will be back. Stay tuned.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished. When they incarcerate your children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. Partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom.
Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pacman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pacman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Yes, it is the Bill Press Show. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. I know you were expecting to see Bill. Hell, I was expecting to see Bill this morning. We were all excited to do our first show of 2015, but you've probably read all about this flu epidemic that's sweeping the country. I think that Bill has been touched with a little bit of that. So he had a rough weekend. He gave me the high sign early this morning that he wasn't going to be able to make it in. So I'm happy to be here with you, and I promise Bill will be back soon. He's taking his meds. He's getting some rest. He's on the road to recovery.
And you are brimming with happiness this morning, Peter.
Oh, as always. Duh. Like that was ever in question. My name is Peter Ogburn. I will be with you for the rest of the show today. That voice you heard was Elisa Murphy running the board. Elisa,
good morning.
Happy New Year.
Yes.
Happy
Woo-hoo,
Monday.
2015.
Happy January. Happy New Year. All of that good stuff. Screening your calls at 866-55-PRESS is Alicia Cruz. Please call her. She's very lonely. She's looking to talk to people here in the new year. 866-557-7377. And Cyprian Bolding is the man keeping us on TV. That is Free Speech TV on Dish Network and DirecTV. Or you can also stream us online on that ... thing. It's youtube.com/TawkrTV, TAWKR TV. That's how you spell talker now. So much stuff to talk about. But one of the things I knew we wanted to talk about as soon as I saw it was the fact that Mike Huckabee has given up his Fox TV show because he's going to run for president. And nobody I would rather talk about that more than Director of Research for Media Matters, Jeremy Holden, our good friend. Jeremy, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Peter.
You can follow Jeremy on Twitter at JerAHolden, J-E-R-A Holden. So much to talk about with Mike Huckabee. We're gonna get right into that. We're gonna talk all about that. Hey, really quickly, can we pull up that Mario Cuomo clip? Because we haven't had a chance to talk about the passing of Mario Cuomo, who a lot of people thought was going to run for president, and had a very, very, very strong defense for Democrats at the 1984 Democratic National Convention. I just want to play a couple of his words really quickly before we get into 2016.
We Democrats must unite. We Democrats must unite so that the entire nation can unite. Because surely the Republicans won't bring this country together. Their policies divide the nation into the lucky and the left out, into the royalty and the rabble. The Republicans are willing to treat that division as victory. They would cut this nation in half into those temporarily better off and those worse off than before, and they would call that division recovery.
That's 30 years ago. How timely is that? Someone could get up and say that today and be right.
Yeah.
Like every bit of it.
Yeah. I mean, and that was, I think, the thing. I was on holiday when the news broke, ran to Twitter like a lot of us, and that was the thing that I saw so many people going back to is that speech and how timely it still is 30 years later. The fight continues.
We don't have time to play all the audio. We're going to tweet out a link where you can watch the whole speech. I did the same thing. I watched it. I mean, sad to admit, the whole Mario Cuomo thing a little bit ahead of my time, so I'd never seen it before, but I watched it after I saw the news. It's powerful stuff. And extremely relevant. So, yeah, we'll tweet that out at BP Show. Make sure you check that out. Not so relevant, however, is Mike Huckabee. He's relevant because over the weekend he said he's giving up his Fox TV show, the Mike Huckabee Good Time Happy Hour, But this show, by the way, I know that you guys watch a lot of TV and watch a lot of Fox at Media Matters. It's my favorite show on Fox. It is the goofiest damn thing I've ever seen. Like, he's got a band, and he gets up and he plays bass with all these bros. It's awful in the best way possible.
The folksy home time hour. Right?
Oh, it's so folksy and so hometowny.
Yeah.
Y'all, and it's just, it's so bad it's good.
But it's it's been a platform for 6 years, right? And he has said in recent interviews that this really helped him build up his brand, to put him in a position to mount another run for the White House. And we've seen this over and over again at Fox News, how they're a soft landing spot for Republicans when they don't win office. They can build that brand. They can maintain some level of credibility with the core audience. And when the time is right, they can leverage that brand recognition, that name recognition, into another run for office. And so it's a great gig for people who can get it. We saw this with Rick Santorum when he made his run a couple years ago. Obviously, a spot for Newt Gingrich in between runs. Mike Huckabee. Scott Brown has now done the revolving door twice, right? Now he's over there at Fox waiting to find another state that he can call home for his next Senate run. But Fox News is home in the meantime.
It's like a little farm team for Republican candidates.
Yeah, exactly.
And Ben Carson is someone who was hardly on the national scene before Fox News started putting him on constantly. Let's talk about sort of the movement of Mike Huckabee from the last time he ran for president. He had a little momentum, or made a little bit of a bang, right, when he ran 8 years ago, to now. How has he evolved? Because he was kind of this conservative Christian, very forward with his beliefs, and he rode that to some success at one point. Where does that put him now?
Well, I think that's going to be the interesting question as he considers a bid. One thing is going to be taking the temperature for how much money he can raise. That was one of the big hang-ups he had in 2008. He won 8 states. He won the Iowa caucus. He didn't win a lot of money along the way, and certainly was trailing badly against John McCain by the time he dropped out in March. But, the positions that he took were to the right of, the center of gravity in American politics, certainly as a conservative Christian reaching out to those evangelical voters. Is he going to be consistent on that? That's an open question, as he's out there exploring a run. Certainly that constituency that he was reaching out to for has a lot of voices reaching out to it, right? Ted Cruz now, Rand Paul. That evangelical vote is going to be sought after, I think, more so than it was maybe in 2008. But look, just recently, Mike Huckabee was out there saying he would consider leaving the Republican Party over the issue of marriage equality. An incredibly mainstream position, and he says he would leave the party because it's abomination, and it's antithetical to his values. So still a lot of radical positions out on the right wing fringe for Huckabee. But then again, he's also taken some heat from some pockets of the conservative movement because he's been a vocal supporter at times of education reform, the so-called Common Core standards. He's tried to walk back from that. So what position does Huckabee stand for is, I think, an open question as he considers this bid.
Yeah, that's we'll have to keep an eye on that because I'm sure he'll make it very known here soon if he's running for president. Let's take a little walk down memory lane, shall we? Because we've got some great audio. That's the thing about when you have a TV show for that long and you're a media personality for so long before you run for president. There's lots of tape. The most recent thing that I think really ruffled feathers was actually exactly a year ago yesterday. You remember this clip? This is the first clip, Elisa.
If the Democrats want to insult the women of America by making them believe that they are helpless without Uncle Sugar coming in and providing for them a prescription each month for birth control because they cannot control their libido or their reproductive system without the help of the government, then so be it. Let us take that discussion all across America.
Sorry, that was January 24th of 2015, almost the one-year anniversary. But you talked about the issue of the evangelical vote and what he's going to do for the evangelical vote, but you got to think that this is not going to sit well with the women in America and how they vote. They're not going to forget about this. And also men who care about, women's issues too. I mean, I'm bothered by that, and I'm not a woman.
Right. Well, no, and I think this gets to another aspect of the Fox role in the discourse, right? That comments like that are perfectly fine in the Fox universe. They're perfectly at home, and so you see like this issue of like conservatives think that they're just talking inside that bubble. Like this is how we talk amongst ourselves. The problem is when it seeps out and other people hear, right? Remember, Mike Huckabee was a vocal supporter of Todd Aiken after the legitimate rape comments, right? Because like, why are we throwing our guy under the bus? This is how we talk amongst ourselves. It becomes problematic when other people hear these comments.
Let's play the one from December of 2012. Now, this is after the Newtown massacre, and Mike Huckabee has the reason why all these things are happening.
You know, invariably people ask after tragedies like this, how could God let this happen?
Well, you know, it's an interesting thing. We ask why there's violence in our schools, but we've systematically removed God from our schools. Should we be so surprised that schools would become a place of carnage because we've made it a place where we don't want to talk about eternity, life?
Yeah. So there you go. It's all because we got religion out of the schools, which again is a battle that was fought a long, long time ago.
Yeah, that's right. And again, you talk about the kind of folksy, hometowny show, but it is kind of set in the 1950s, right? And I mean, that's kind of the motif that we're going for here. But yeah, so think about that. 90% of Americans want universal background checks, right? What was it? 70 senators, 60 some odd senators voted for that background check bill, right? Mike Huckabee thinks that this is about, well, we took God out of schools, that's why we have school shootings, right? I mean, again, on the fringes of the political thought in this country, but really kind of in the center of the Fox News wing of politics.
It's such a simplistic answer.
It really is.
You know, like that is absolutely something that Rick Santorum would say. And it also is, I think, it very clearly shows this is someone who's not ready to be serious about policy, right? Like, we've got a problem. Your solution is that we should have more people praying to God in schools. I think that's not a solution. It's so simplified.
What it does, though, is prevent any further conversation about how to get to the solution, right? I mean, let's just have a conversation about God in schools, and we don't have to have one about universal background checks, about, assault weapon legislation, about really strong public safety measures. We just have the fight about God instead.
Maybe it's just really painfully simplistic, like a fox, I guess.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. 18 minutes past the hour. Let's take a quick break. We've got a lot of stuff to talk to Jeremy Holden about, Director of Research for Media Matters. Follow him on Twitter at Jer.A. Holden, J-E-R-A. Holden, and of course online at MediaMatters.org. You are watching The Bill Press Show with your guest host, Peter Ogburn. Bill will be back very soon. But for now, stay tuned. Lots of stuff coming up.
This is The Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful?
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it. And they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university?
Yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show, tweeting at BP Show. Make sure you're following us there. And we are talking to our good friend, Director of Research for Media Matters, Jeremy Holden, in studio with us to kick off the new year. Thank you for being here.
Glad to be here.
Talked a lot about Mike Huckabee and his Fox News show and his now run for president. He gave up his show and he's running for president. So more power to you, man.
Yeah.
We're like, Hucka not going to be president anytime soon.
I see what you did there.
Pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Come on.
At least we'll have some good audio if he does indeed decide to do this.
Oh, look. The fine folks over at Media Matters have just a data bank of Huckabee stuff. MediaMatters.org. We will mine it extensively. I promise you that. There's going to be like smoke coming off of your servers from us just going to Media Matters, getting Mike Huckabee stuff.
Happy to play our part.
Thank you very much. We're happy to give you the traffic. So the president's back from another Hawaiian vacation. I'm just going to read this headline from the New York Times. Obama is nation's private golfer in chief. So this whole idea that President Barack Obama plays too much golf or takes too much vacation time, is there any truth to that at all?
Well, no. I mean, like this is one of the silliest attacks that we've heard for 6 years now, and it's really bizarre to me that reporters buy into this, right? I mean, reporters who have cell phones and smartphones and tablets, like they know how connected they are. Like, do you think the president is less connected? Like, he's not reachable. If disaster struck and he was on the ninth tee, that he wouldn't be able to find out until he finished his round. I mean, it's ridiculous. And like, look, presidents golf. Golf is where a lot of business gets done. Golf is a relaxing thing. I'm terrible at golf, so like I hate golf because it makes me makes me feel
It's not
inadequate.
relaxing. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, but the fact that the president golfs occasionally with world leaders or friends to unwind or to conduct business, like this doesn't seem at all controversial to me, yet you get these headlines.
I'm a big fan of the person with maybe the most stressful job on the planet being able to unwind.
Yeah.
For like a couple of hours playing golf. I'm okay with that.
Right.
And it's not like he's going on a Tuesday morning when the weather's nice. It's on the weekends. And like you said, he's connected. Need we remind you that the night that we killed Osama bin Laden, the president was out golfing earlier that day. I'm sure he wasn't out of pocket.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And, I saw this again, enjoying the Christmas holiday. I saw this, Obama golf, 54 times last year. And I quickly thought, I'm thinking, okay, that works out to maybe once a week. And then I hated myself for even doing the math and buying into this. Like, who cares? Who actually cares beyond headline writers who apparently there wasn't enough to fill the paper today.
Yeah, right. Yeah, apparently not. Okay, I have to ask you about this because this is a story that has driven me nuts since I saw it. So, over the break, Sarah Palin tweets out this photo of her youngest son, or youngest child, Trig, and there's a counter in the kitchen, and there's a dog. Looks like a golden retriever type dog. It's a big dog, I guess is what I'm getting at. And she tweets out a photo of her kid standing on the dog's back to get up to the counter. And the headline is something like, we all need a little help from our friends sometime or whatever. Which, come on. It's not okay to stand on a dog's back. I don't care if you're a little kid or not. Like, don't stand on a dog's back. What are you going to step ladder? Use a dog instead? So naturally, PETA, of course, right on cue, right? Like they said that you shouldn't treat dogs this way. You shouldn't be using dogs as step ladders. She puts out her retort. Dear PETA, chill. At least Trig didn't eat the dog.
That's the standard now. No, what gets me about this is, does Sarah Palin not get optics? It's not like a tracker grabbed this picture and posted it. You made the decision to put that out there. What were you thinking?
I'm sorry. Do we not remember what happened when Mitt Romney strapped his dog to the top of the car for a family road trip? Little issue, right? Yeah. Not a huge policy issue or something, but I'll always equate Mitt Romney having a dog to that story.
Yeah, the roof dogging incident.
The roof dogging.
Dogging. Yeah. I mean, maybe Reince Priebus needs to put out a memo for Republicans, no more pictures with dogs. Yeah. No more dog anecdotes.
No more dog stuff. She puts out, she says, our pets are loved, spoiled, and cared for more than some people care for their fellow man. So, would you ever say, hey, Jeremy, I can't quite reach that thing on the top shelf. Can you get on all fours? Let me stand on your back.
It's a little bit it's not high enough. We need a Great Dane.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. All right, Jeremy, thank you for coming.
Hey, thanks for having me. Happy 2015.
Happy 2015. Director of Research with Media Matters. Visit them online at MediaMatters.org. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press. Take a quick break. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
Yes, it is The Bill Press Show. My name is Peter Ogren, sitting in for Bill Press today. I know you were probably excited to check in with Bill on his first live show of the new year, and frankly, so was I. But Bill has the flu, which you've probably heard about. It hit him yesterday, so I am. He gave me the high sign. I came in to host the show today.
I think he might just be avoiding me. This is like my third straight week of being in here without
I
Bill.
swear he was going to be here.
Do not take it personally.
Going to be here. Yeah, he saw the email. Justin was coming in tomorrow.
Like,
I'm out.
I'm just feeling a little. I don't know.
Feel so good.
I'll probably be back tomorrow, though. Don't worry, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, thank you for coming in, Justin Sink, our good buddy, White House correspondent with The Hill. You're seeing him more and more here on the show because we're such a big fan of yours. You're so good to us for being here. So, vacation's over. Everybody's back to work. That includes the President of the United States. He's back from his Hawaiian vacation. How did that Hawaiian vacation go, by the way? No real news out there?
It was, I think, a relative success in terms of no news for everybody. There was a bit of a controversy at the very beginning, of course, with the shooting of those New York City police officers, and there were some accusations kind of thrown at the White House about, whether the President and Attorney General Holder had played any role in sort of stoking that. But that turned into more of a Bill de Blasio story than a President Obama story. And after that, it was kind of a quiet holiday, which is extremely rare for a President Obama vacation.
There's usually something going on, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it seemed like an actual vacation.
And kind of in keeping with what was a nice post-election end of the year for the president, we saw his Gallup numbers for the first time in years kind of bubble back into positive territory. We saw good economic news. Gas prices stayed low, and so there's a good amount of momentum headed into 2015 for the president.
Can I just say, by the way, you mentioned the gas prices, total squirrel sidetrack moment here. So I took the kids and my wife on a road trip over the holidays, all over the place, right? South Carolina, we went to Tennessee, went to North Carolina, everywhere in the Prius, right? Because I'm a liberal elitist, of course. You know how much I filled up for in Tennessee? $1.84.
Oh my goodness!
$1.84 a gallon.
You made a mistake getting the Prius.
I know.
You should be in a big SUV.
We're getting a Hummer.
Keep those kids like 4 rows back with their own TVs.
Cramped.
Yeah.
We got all of Christmas in the car for like 2 weeks. What am I doing? You should have got like a Highlander or something. A Prius. $1.84 a gallon. So the president's approval ratings you mentioned are bubbling back up. What is that? Why is that happening? Is there any rhyme to that reason?
I think there's a couple aspects to it. One is all that good economic news.
Yeah.
People felt pretty good headed into the end of the year. Another was we saw the president kind of come up off of the sidelines, and after the election for months he had really kind of hidden himself, tried not to make any controversial statements, tried not to kind of undertake new initiatives that might disrupt the apple cart for Senate Democrats. Democrats get blown out in the elections. He feels, I think, more ability to go out and do things. So we saw big announcements on Cuba, big announcements on net neutrality, on immigration. And so these are kind of big things that fire up a base that was really kind of dispirited by, I think, months of the president just kind of playing peekaboo. And then on top of that, and headed forward, I think the president's going to hit the road again this week. He's going to 3 different cities. He's going to unveil kind of a new slate of executive actions and of legislative proposals ahead of the State of the Union. And so you see the White House, thinking that they've got this momentum right now and trying to capture it and build on it.
I hate to keep harping on the gas price thing, but when the Democrats got blown out in the elections, right? A lot of people were saying, "Oh, but the economy is good or it's improving." It's all, which is true, but I don't think it translated for so many people. That's why you hear a lot of talk about wages, right? Like that's something that middle America, all Americans can see, can hold, can grab onto. And with something like gas prices, they see the gas prices are going down, and you hear the president talk about all this economic recovery and growth and how things are looking better. That's something you could see and they grab onto. Whether that actually means that the economy is good or not is something that a lot of people will debate and have that argument, but it's a tangible thing.
Yeah, I mean, some administration officials have kind of described it as something like a $500 tax cut that people are just sort of discovering in their wallets, because it's, that's how much people will be spending relative to what they were before.
Unless you drive a Prius. Or something like that,
You've made lots of mistakes, but this is in a very tangible way, kind of a sign or a way for Americans to feel better headed into the holidays, especially when I think a lot of people's feeling tight about money, and we haven't seen that on the wage side, although the last couple quarters have shown wage growth exceeding inflation for kind of the first time in the president's 6 years in office. It hasn't been something that they can kind of consistently rely on, and it's been a tough case for the president to make.
So you talked about the president going on the road and a slate of executive actions that are coming up. What should we be looking for?
So on Wednesday, he's going to Detroit. He's going to talk about the auto.
Is he going to address the flag situation with the Cowboys game last night? Because apparently Detroit Lion fan is very upset about losing to the Cowboys last night. I don't think the president's going to talk about that or not.
I think Chris Christie gave him a chance with that really awkward bro hug of Jerry Jones.
How awkward was that?
I don't know. I mean, I grew up in Philadelphia, and I can tell you that there are some Philadelphia Eagles fans in southern New Jersey who are not happy with that image.
A lot of people hate Jerry Jones.
Yeah.
Right. Don't play down the political impact of that. Is it going to cost him the White House? Of course not. But it was
a moment. It was a moment.
He's jumping up and down, and I mean, it's weird. It's super weird.
I suggest everybody go online and find the Vine of that hug.
You
because
must.
It's must-see TV.
There are a lot of photos of it out there, and the photos of it are weird. The video is like 10 times weirder.
Yeah. The motion.
Because he's literally jumping up and down, and there's this awkward step. It's weird.
He goes in for the hug. It reminded me actually of when Jay Carney was leaving the White House. And the president came out to say some nice things and went in for a handshake, and then Jay kind of like bear hugged him, and it was just like really awkward. And everybody's like, okay, all right,
we're good.
Yeah,
we're good. But the president won't talk about that in Detroit.
He might bring it up, but he's there to talk about auto manufacturing. At the very end of the year, the government announced that kind of the last dollars of the auto bailout had been paid back, and so I think this is kind of a big achievement. American car manufacturers are doing the best that they have in decades, and so that's a big thing. From Detroit, he'll head down to Phoenix.
And by the way, before we go there, that's another one of those tangible things I think that he's learned from the election. You could talk about how great the economy is, and you could talk about numbers, but until you could put it into real facts that workers can see. Yes,
American car manufacturers are doing really, really well now. Or I should say better, a lot better than they were.
Yeah, and I think they've also learned that the president is, to some extent, at his best when he's doing kind of campaign-style events. When he has got, and I think what you will see is the president not only kind of talking up these executive actions, talking up this legislation, but drawing a hard line against congressional Republicans who, starting today, have control of both the House and Senate, and really trying to aggressively define his agenda against theirs and using them as sort of a boogeyman in the way that he was able to successfully use John McCain and Mitt Romney as to kind of draw some of those hard contrasts.
Yeah. All right. So he goes to Phoenix after Detroit.
After Detroit, he's going to talk about housing recovery there. And he traveled to Phoenix kind of towards the beginning of his administration to talk about housing, go back, check in, but also announce new steps that are going to try to help people with home ownership. And after Phoenix, he heads with Vice President Biden to Tennessee. He'll be talking about kind of college access there. This is something that affordability, access has been a big part of a push by the administration, especially the Vice President over the last couple of years. They see this as a way to help people who have been kind of left out of this recovery or who are kind of struggling with still the aftermath of the recession to get the skills that they need to get a higher paying job.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Busy schedule. That's all, of course, leading up to the State of the Union, which we'll talk a little bit about when we come back. We're joined by our good friend, Justin Sink from The Hill. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. Make sure you are following us on Twitter at BP Show, and make sure you're following Justin on Twitter at JTS The Hill. Good stuff from the White House and general Washington news there. We will take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming,
and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is The Bill Press Show, 46 minutes past the hour. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. I'm joined by Justin Sink, White House correspondent from The Hill, our good friend. You can follow him on Twitter at JTS The Hill. I wanted to take a quick moment because the president spoke about the passing of Stuart Scott, sportscaster, longtime ESPN anchor. The president put out a statement yesterday that said, "I will miss Stuart Scott. 20 years ago, Stu helped usher in a new way to talk about our favorite teams and the day's best plays. For much of those 20 years, public service and campaigns have kept me from my family, but wherever I went, I could flip on the TV, and Stu and his colleagues on SportsCenter were there. Over the years, he entertained us, and in the end, he inspired us with courage and love. Michelle and I offer our thoughts and prayers to his family, friends, and colleagues." Scott died at the age of 49. He had been diagnosed with cancer in 2007. And in July of this past year, just 7 months ago, he spoke at the ESPY Awards, and he said this.
When you die, that does not mean that you lose to cancer. You beat cancer by how you live, why you live, and in the manner in which you live.
Powerful speech he gave at the ESPYs, and it was interesting to see the president put out a speech or put out a statement on that because we know how big of a sports fan he is.
Yeah,
for sure.
And Stuart Scott, kind of interesting how he was able to bridge, I think, both black culture, hip hop, and the world of sports. He was really hailed by his sort of colleagues kind of all day yesterday for that, and it had kind of a political edge to him. He interviewed both President Obama and President Clinton, and did kind of interesting interviews that were both political and, of course, about sports. And so I think he was kind of one of those really influential people who was integral to ESPN and to really changing the way that the media kind of handles all sorts of things.
I think it's going to be a little while before we really fully see the impact of what Stuart Scott had on broadcasting, because there are a lot of people who grew up watching SportsCenter with him and the way he delivered the sports stories, the sports news in such a way that was so radically different.
Yes.
I mean, completely different. I don't know if people fully realize that, of how different it was when he did it. There's a great video tribute that ESPN put out yesterday that said he took so much grief for it from viewers and from executives that were like, you have got to chill out, you got to calm down.
But this is now the sort of the model for ESPN, especially for ESPN, and actually it's been really interesting to see other aspects of news media. I mean, ABC certainly, which is co-owned by Disney, has really changed their model to model off of ESPN. And Stuart Scott was so integral in sort of the bombastic arguments, the witty phrases, those sorts of things that have now kind of been infected from ESPN into ABC, and now you see NBC trying to chase ABC's success. Yeah. I mean, this is something he really has had kind of a pervasive change on all sorts of media.
Yeah, absolutely. So, booyah! That's it. Booyah! Sad news there that the president took some time to weigh in on. All right, so as you mentioned earlier, new Congress, here we go. Can we expect anything major to happen, or is it going to be the same story that we've seen the past couple go around?
I think you can make a lot of money betting on Congress not doing anything, so I'm always hesitant to predict otherwise. I do think that there are some areas that we're going to hear about possible coming across the aisle, building bridges, trade deals, corporate tax reform, maybe infrastructure. These are areas where the White House is cautiously optimistic. I think that they can get Republicans on board, try to accomplish something together. But at the same time, it's going to be really hard, I think, to get the polar kind of parts of both both parties, Republicans who aren't interested at all in brokering this type of deal, Democrats who aren't interested in sort of the concessions that are necessary to make these kind of deals, as we saw with the sort of Cromnibus flap that developed. And so it's going to be a tough job for both Mitch McConnell and President Obama to sell to their sides of the party.
And they're going to start out with what? I mean, there's Keystone Pipeline has been kicked around.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Republicans in Congress will go through a couple months of just passing legislation like Keystone, like repealing Obamacare, these sorts of things that are essentially show votes, and that they'll force the president to veto. This is something he hasn't really had to do before because of Democrats in the Senate, but they're in power now. They have the chance to send it up to him, and it'll make the president have to kind of make some tough decisions about whether to veto things.
Of course, if you thought that the Congress wasn't getting anything done, it's all about to change. It's all about to change because yesterday, Louis Gohmert announced that he is going to challenge John Boehner for Speaker of the House. Good luck with that.
Yeah, I would not put too much money on the Louis Gohmert for Speaker train. But
I mean, John Boehner is not a very effective Speaker of the House. I mean, this is me speaking here. I don't think that he can control and corral his party into a way that they can get all on the same page. That being said, I certainly don't think Louis Gohmert is that guy either.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it does continue to show this very difficult challenge that faces House Speaker John Boehner and really questions how Republicans are going to move forward with sort of these two parts of the party that cannot seem to get on the same page. There were sort of overtures to the Tea Party conservative base after Eric Cantor was kind of swept out of Congress, and so they brought in people like Steve Scalise, and you've seen that that's kind of created early headaches for the leadership team. And so for Boehner, it's a difficult kind of quandary, and it's going to be especially difficult as Republicans try to broker these deals that are going to require compromises on both sides, but are also a little bit necessary for them to be able to field a viable candidate in 2016. If you continue to just oppose things, it's going to be tougher and tougher to bring in some of these moderate and independent voters that you're going to need to be able to challenge whoever the Democratic nominee is.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, it's always entertaining to cover, and it's always entertaining to talk about it with you. Justin Sink from The Hill, thank you so much for joining us, buddy.
Thanks for having me.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press. We're going to take a very, very quick break, and we'll be back. Stay tuned.
This is The Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear we had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves,
should I get back?
What do people really hate?
Yep.
Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now, pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat the threat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Still lots of good show coming up. Our good friend Karl Frisch joins us in the next hour, along with Jeremy Herb from Politico. So make sure you are tuning in. YouTube.com/TawkrTV, TawkrTV is where you can watch the show. It is time to take a look at the president's schedule. He is back from Hawaii. So it's time to get down to work. 10 a.m. this morning, the president and the vice president received the presidential daily briefing, and then a little downtime until 12:30 when the president and the vice president meet for lunch. Get a lot of Joe time. A lot of JB, a lot of Jables time today, huh? And then 2:30, the president meets with senior advisors. Other than that, there's just the White House press briefing by Press Secretary Josh Earnest. That is at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Granted, I'm sure there's a lot of other things going on. Not too concerned about it. Like I said, a lot of other good things coming up on the show, kicking off the next hour with Karl Frisch, our good friend for the hour. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill Press today. Make sure you're following us on Twitter at BP Show. Talk to you on the other side.
This is The Bill Press Show.
West here reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We are still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now. We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight. It's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please. Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pacman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pacman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is The Bill Press Show, the third hour of the program. Thank you so much for tuning in. Clearly, I am not Bill Press. I am Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. We were all looking forward to rejoining, having our first show, our first live show of 2015. Bill was ready. He told me yesterday he was ready. And I got a text from him in the wee hours of the morning that he's been hit with that flu everybody's been talking about. So he is in rough shape. And with that, with very little sleep and having spent 2 weeks off the grid, here I am, America, hosting with all the help that I could get from our good friends and from our callers at 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. You could watch us on DirecTV or Dish Network on the Free Speech TV channel or on youtube.com/TawkrTV, TAWKR TV. That's how you spell it now. Running the board is Elisa Murphy. Elisa, happy New Year, happy Monday, all that good
2015.
stuff.
Good to have you back.
Thank you.
You were missed, by the way.
I don't buy that, but that's okay.
I tried.
That's all right. Yeah, thank you for trying to make it believable. Screening the calls at 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377 is Alicia Cruz. Give her a call on any topic at any time. And Cyprian Bolding is the man behind the camera, putting us on TV. He is the one that's doing his best to make us look so good on this Monday. Of course, I couldn't do this without the help of our good friends. And for the hour, we've brought in our good friend, Karl Frisch, Democratic strategist, very good friend of the show. Karl, good to see you.
Good morning.
Happy New Year.
To you as well.
It's a grind. That first Monday back is a grind, man.
I don't even feel like I'm awake yet.
Yeah, right? It's this weird nether region that we're just sort of wallowing in for the show. And then, we'll get back on track eventually.
Right. I think that's the same anytime the new year rolls around. You write, if you still write checks, you continue to put the date, incorrect date on them. And you realize that it's been 15 years since Y2K.
Yo, I have this conversation with my kids, by the way, on New Year's Eve, because I had to work. This is the schlockiness of small town radio, which is what I was doing as we rolled over from 1999 to 2000. We did do a lot. I was
working for John McCain, so
no matter what I have, isn't going to be that bad,
right?
But I had to do one of these hokey radio shows. All right, everybody, we're going to count down from 99 to 2000. We're going to see if we can stay on the air. Let's see if the computers crash. Let's count it down. Oh, nothing changed. Okay, well, let's take some calls. It was so bad. And that's how I spent my New Year's that night.
Here we go with Mambo number 5.
Not wrong, by the way.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. But by the way, can we talk for New Year's resolutions? Do you do the New Year's resolution thing?
I don't believe in them.
Do you do New Year's resolution?
Kind of.
What's your New Year's resolution?
Just to get back into the gym, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah, I've been married for a couple of years, and so he doesn't go, and so I haven't been, and I'm under 5 foot, so I have to go.
The gym in December, the gym looks like a metro train in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
In January, it looks like a metro train during rush hour.
Yeah. Like the first 2 weeks of January, by the way. My wife is a fitness instructor, as I've talked about before. And she talks about, they are all gearing up for the crush. She teaches a couple different gyms, and all of the gyms are like, we need everybody on staff. It's going to be crazy.
But that's why I don't believe in New Year's resolutions.
Exactly. I'm with you.
I believe in changing life and changing just a few small things. So, I quit smoking 2 years ago, but I didn't do it over New Year's.
You keeping that up?
Yeah.
Good for you.
I haven't had a cigarette in more than a year and a half.
Good for you.
And I did that by making a few small changes. So I don't think
that wasn't a New Year's resolution.
No, I did it in June, for crying out loud. So I think that New Year's resolutions are fine. Most people don't stick to them because, the minute they fall off the path, they give up.
Yeah.
So, if you think of it, I call it the 1 degree difference. So if you change 1 degree and you're walking, if you go 1 degree to the left for a mile, the difference of where you end up if you'd walked in that 1 degree versus walking straight for 1 mile is quite a bit different.
Yeah.
So you don't have to change much.
Yeah. No, that's a good way to put it. I'm with you. I think New Year's resolutions are garbage. Not that I'm saying you should give up on your. It's a totally fine resolution to have.
Well, if I give up, the good thing is I can say I'll do it next year.
That's right. Yeah, you keep hope alive. We need to talk about your break, by the way.
Okay.
We need to talk about your holiday break because I talked about mine earlier. I just did a road trip with the family. Yours was a little more elaborate.
I went to Nazareth, Texas.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah.
For the holidays, I went to see my sister in Nazareth, Texas, and my family joined her there. And
I don't know Nazareth. What is that?
Most people don't. I mean, the town has 300 people in it. Sorry, the county has 300 people in it.
Holy cow.
It is in the pot of the Panhandle. You cannot see my sister's neighbors. And that's not because there's trees in the way. There aren't any trees there.
Right.
There's maybe 5 trees. It's because she lives on acres and acres and acres and acres and acres of a ranch. And you just can't see anybody. And she lives on a dirt road in the middle of nowhere.
That's kind of appealing.
I mean,
I'm not going to lie.
I had better internet and cell phone, or better internet in the second half of my holiday than I did in Texas.
Oof. Let's talk about the second half of your holiday.
I went to Cuba.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you went to Cuba. All right, so let's talk about how you got to Cuba. You can't just buy a ticket to Cuba.
You can.
All right.
You just can't do it legally.
All right, scofflaw. How did you make this happen?
I had been planning it for about 8 months, and they have these educational and cultural permits from the State Department called People to People. I don't know why they call them that, but you essentially...
It's like the human fund.
It's like it's like going on a planned holiday that is educational in nature. So I was there for a week, and every day we did some things like going to museums, doing walking tours of a town or a city, seeing live music, going to the ballet, whatever. There was always something to do each day where we learned a little bit about Cuba. And they've been doing this going on 20 years. It's not cheap, but it's the way that you get to fly out of Miami as opposed to having to break the law and fly through Canada or Mexico or some European destination. You get a Cuban visa and the whole 9 yards, and you're there legally, and nobody can say anything about it when you return.
That's awesome.
It was fun.
Yeah, so, I mean, talk to me about, like, being in Cuba, right? Because I think a lot of people have this picture painted of what it's like, and I think the president sort of burst the bubble a little bit when he talked about it a couple of weeks ago of opening up some trade with Cuba. On the ground, what are your impressions of Cuba as...
Our trade will help them greatly. It is
Okay.
a very poor country, and it is a country of extremes. I went to... Most Americans only go to Havana, so they don't see everything. I certainly didn't see everything, but I was in the southeastern portion of the island, in Baracoa, Holguin, and Santiago, and saw Guantanamo Bay, our naval base, from a distance. So I got to see a good chunk of the southeastern side of the island and the southwestern side of the island, and then flew to Havana from Santiago. Santiago is the second largest city. See, I'm spitting out facts like
I love it.
Like I'm in encyclopedia. And Havana is certainly different. Havana feels like a Latin European country, with the exception of you can find poverty very quickly. They spend a great deal of money on the upkeep of touristy parts of Havana, but there is a lot of poverty, just behind the walls, and lots of crumbling buildings, lots of old cars, and in Santiago and Baracoa, they're very culturally rich, but that's about all the wealth there is. Communism and the embargo has taken its toll on people. The powerful, they don't hurt. They're not being hurt one way or another by this, other than maybe their popularity with the people being damaged.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear you say that. Did you get a sense from anybody on the ground of any kind of reaction to this latest trade
They love
deal?
us.
Yeah.
They always, I mean, that's the thing.
Wait, you were greeted as liberators?
Well, I wouldn't say we were greeted as liberators, but everybody's excited about the embargo being lifted. They didn't want the embargo.
Right.
So, I think we need to remember that it was the United States that kept this thing going. I'm not saying that the Castros are good people, but neither are other dictators that we've done business with. Look at China.
Yeah.
I mean, we do business in China, and we would never think of putting an embargo on them because our businesses make way too much money there. Cuba may be the victim of having two major cash crops, sugar and tobacco, and not a lot of natural resources. They don't have oil. They don't have coal. So, perhaps they're the victim there. That being said, the idea that we think we can just stroll in there and buy up everything or harness their resources or make a lot of money off of them is probably a little misguided. There's probably going to be some of that because we have to remember we're not the only ones that are going to be there playing ball.
Yeah.
The Canadians, the Europeans, the Spanish have been there for 15 years already. So they've already been doing that. There are Spanish-owned hotel chains, German-owned hotel chains there. It's going to take a lot of work to break the poverty cycle in that country. I mean, you're talking about people who live off of maybe $100 a month, or 100 kooks. It's a Cuban convertible, which is, they have two currencies there, pesos and kooks.
Oh, wow.
Everybody uses kooks. Very few people use pesos. But a kook is basically $1, and people live off like $100 a month there. And they get rationed food for other necessities.
Right.
They get free housing and other things, right?
Yeah, sure.
But free housing, you're talking about maybe a building or an apartment that is 10 by 20 feet that you fit 3 generations of a family in.
Oh, Jesus.
And then I'm in Havana, and I meet artists who are selling paintings for $25,000 and live in their own 3-story houses. So I'm not exactly sure what brand of communism that is, but it's certainly not our grandparents' communism.
Let me play devil's avocado for just a moment, because there was this whole, everybody made the same exact joke when the president talked about these as, we're going to put a McDonald's or we're going to put a Walmart in Cuba now, and we're going to take over. Is there any fear of that happening?
I think it's probably more from the Americans than anything.
Yeah, right.
I think it'd be very, very difficult for that to happen.
Yeah.
I think that's probably true that if and when everything is completely normalized, because if you look at the rules that were proposed, we're not talking about sweeping opening of our relations. We're talking about gradual change.
Right.
But if, let's say, fast forward 10 years, I think there'll probably be some resorts put in. And maybe in Havana there'll be a McDonald's or something. But people in Baracoa can't afford going to McDonald's. They can't afford, they have very few vegetables because of the climate there. So, wherever you eat, you get a small plate in the middle of the table with cabbage, cucumbers, and tomatoes sliced up.
Oh, wow.
So there's a lot to come before there's a McDonald's. People do not have any money.
Right.
People work in the black market there. And the black market, is tourism, because you're not allowed to move there without permission. You can swap houses with somebody, but if you want to move to Havana where all the American tourists are and all the European tourists are, the idea that you're going to be able to find somebody who wants to swap with you and leave their place in Havana and move to Maua or someplace really rural, probably not going to happen. So a lot of people just, there's hundreds of thousands of people that live in Havana that live there illegally, that are Cuban.
Wow.
Because they want to be part of the tourism trade.
Sure.
So they'll give bus tours, they'll sell crafts, they'll do all kinds of things.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right. Let's take a quick break. And we'll talk about some politics stuff, but I was fascinated to get that report, so thank you for coming in with that. Karl,
photos of my trip on Twitter and Facebook.
Yes. Karl, follow Karl on Twitter at Karl Frisch, Frisch, and friend him on Facebook as well. Check out those photos. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Presley. Quick break. We'll talk some politics coming up next.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful?
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university? And,
people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is The Bill Press Show, 25 minutes past the hour on this Monday, January 5th, 2015. Our first live show of the new year. Unfortunately, Bill can't be here because of an illness. There's an epidemic, that flu epidemic, sweeping the country. I think he might have gotten hit with some of that.
Get your shots, people.
Yeah, right. But we're here. We're here holding down the fort in his absence. He'll be back very, very soon. I'm joined by our good friend Karl Frisch, Democratic strategist. Karl, thank you for being here. I had to ask, because over the break, we got word that Mike Huckabee is leaving his Fox News Mike Huckabee, old-timey, good-time variety hour, or whatever he's calling it, and he's going to run for president. He's going to consider a run for president.
dozens of his viewers are really upset. I mean, this is a guy who is making a big deal out of leaving Fox. He had a 1 day a week show.
Yeah.
So he had plenty of time to explore things if he wanted to. Fox is the incubation area for Republican candidates for president. I'm sure several other contributors or hosts will consider running for the White House. Huckabee is an interesting case because he skipped the last time and cashed in at Fox. It'll be interesting to see what he does this time. I mean, he certainly hurts Rick Santorum the most. Rick Santorum probably wants him to pull out quickly. Pun intended. And but let's think about who Mike Huckabee is. Former governor of Arkansas. He lived in a double-wide trailer while he was governor of Arkansas. He got a super special secret marriage to his wife while he was governor of Arkansas because they weren't content with just regular marriage. They passed something called covenant marriage, I believe is what it was called. And that made it almost impossible to get divorced. So if you're going to feel sorry for anybody in this country, feel sorry for Mrs. Huckabee. He lost this is just an estimate, approximately 860 pounds while he was governor of Arkansas.
Give or take.
He's gained approximately 600 of that back.
Yeah, he got swole.
I believe it's like the law of Republican weight gain, where Christie loses some weight and it automatically transfers to another contender.
It's got to go somewhere,
right?
Yeah, it's got to
like
go
mass.
somewhere.
If you crush mass, it appears somewhere else.
That's right.
I don't even know if that's scientifically true, but we're talking about Mike Huckabee, and he doesn't believe in science.
Speaking of not believing in science, I have to play this clip because this is the problem with a lot of, this is just one of what could be a lot of problems for Mike Huckabee.
If the Democrats want to insult the women of America by making them believe that they are helpless without Uncle Sugar coming in and providing for them a prescription each month for birth control because they cannot control their libido or their reproductive system without the help of the government, then so be it. Let us take that discussion all across America.
Good luck.
Please do.
Good luck.
Please do, you ignorant SOB.
Right? Like, it's just, he's got a list as long as my arm of statements like that.
He was a Fox host.
Yeah, he was a host on Fox.
It is in your contract. Say crazy things.
Exactly. It's going to come back to bite him in the ass. And he look, have fun running for president, right? It's going to turn out about as
running.
Well for,
How about a slow waddle?
He's going to rascal for president.
Yeah.
All right, quick break. Jeremy Herb coming up next.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is The Bill Press Show, 33 minutes past the hour. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today on this, our first live show of 2015. We're happy to be here, and Bill's going to be back very, very soon. Just under the weather this morning, as he found out late last night, or early this morning, however you want to look at it. But we're here, we're back, we're ready to serve. I'm joined, of course, by our good friend Karl Frisch, who's in for the hour. Follow him on Twitter at Karl Frisch, Frisch. And we have a lot to talk about with defense reporter for Politico, Jeremy Herb. You can follow him on Twitter at Jeremy Herb. Gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right, Jeremy, let's start out talking about the big issue of the day. Have you seen the interview?
I have not.
Okay, you have not seen the interview.
I downloaded it yesterday.
Did you really?
That's a step.
I have. I'm going to. I've been on the road. I got back over the weekend.
Do I have to call security to reinforce my apartment building here in D.C.?
That's the thing, right? Like, all these people act like they're freedom fighters by downloading it. But I will. But look, I'm going to watch it out of principle. I would probably never spend money on this movie to go see it in the movie theater, but I'm going to watch it.
Yeah.
I'll absolutely watch it because, why the hell not?
It's more expensive to download it, by the way, than it is to see it in the theater.
God, that's brutal, isn't it? Isn't that terrible?
Although if you download it for 5 people, you are saving money that way.
I don't have 5 friends.
I have no friends.
I have no friends. Yeah, it's just me. It's just me and a tub of popcorn.
Never even occurred to me that I could split the cost.
Seriously. All right, so the issue, of course, is that we have said that we have determined that North Korea hacked into Sony's information. They leaked out all kinds of emails and personal information and full-length movies and all this type of stuff. And it's all about this movie, The Interview, which depicts Kim Jong-un, a character playing Kim Jong-un, getting blown up by Americans. Right? Did I sum that up well enough?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So first things first. Did North Korea hack into Sony's information?
Well, see, that is the $64,000 question, because the U.S. says very clearly that, yes, they did, that they have ways and means of knowing that they're not exactly sharing with us that say it was North Korea that was behind this. There are a lot of cybersecurity experts that disagree with that and say that the evidence that has been presented is flimsy, is circumstantial, and there's other things that would suggest that it is potentially former employees of Sony who helped orchestrate this attack.
That makes more sense to me. Forget the technology. No, there is a significant translation issue when you deal with this kind of stuff. So the things that were leaked indicate to me that not only did the folks who leaked it have a firm grasp of our language, but they also had a firm grasp of our culture and what would be easily exploited. I can't imagine that somebody who's, in North Korea would think, okay, we're going to look for racist emails, we're going to look for these emails, or that they would be quick to find that kind of stuff or search for that kind of stuff. They probably had to search for it. They didn't just read every email.
I totally buy into this idea that it was an inside job. Totally. I know that the FBI and Barack Obama told me otherwise. And I wouldn't put it past North Korea to do something like this. But it's like you said, it's way, way, way too specific, right?
Well, that's why it's interesting that the Obama administration actually enacted sanctions on North Korea on this on Friday. They didn't, they took the first step of accusing, but then they went further and saying that they're responding to this with sanctions. Now,
I believe they call that doubling down.
Exactly. The sanctions, of course, are more symbolic. We already obviously have lots of sanctions against North Korea, so adding these new sanctions...
We took away their AOL.
Oh, shucks.
Right. We're taking away Prodigy next.
Yeah,
And
well,
then Netscape.
It's interesting, too, because, think about the other fact that after this happened, North Korea's internet went out, and then it was a question, well, did the U.S.
No. Actually, it turns out that his mother was on the other line. So the dial-up just wouldn't go through.
They got the phone! Did we have anything to do with that?
It doesn't look like it, but we don't know for sure. This is the whole problem with cybersecurity, and this is going to be a problem going forward with with these sorts of issues. It's very hard to really definitively say this came from here. It's not like a missile shooting out where you see the stream of it and all of that and its origin. But I would think not. It was such a kind of simple attack that someone, a 15-year-old in his basement, could really have pulled it off.
We've seen the net, okay? It's complicated.
I've seen Johnny Mnemonic. I know how this thing works. But, you brought up a good point about the next battle. We'll talk about the sanctions and stuff in just a second, but the next battlefield, right? Because the president has spoken about cybersecurity before, and we've had some cybersecurity scares here in this country. But if this is truly a cyber war between us and North Korea, that's fascinating. Right? Like if they were able to leak out all of this information that goes as high as the president of these executives making racist jokes about the president to, putting out movies and data and all of this type of stuff. And then we somehow covertly knocked out the internet for all of North Korea for a short period of time. That's a pretty fascinating warfare scenario.
It is. And it's all sort of not really war. The danger with cybersecurity is that they're going to knock out our power grids or do something with our nuclear plants, actually, that causes damage, that sort of thing. But, if this was North Korea, this was the first instance where it's a sort of state-sponsored cyber act that we've accused them of saying, this is a country that is behind this, not just some random group of hackers.
Yeah, Two points. One, I remember months ago that there was something where we'd figured out that the Chinese were trying to infiltrate something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the details, obviously.
But I do remember that there was a Chinese hacker.
The second thing, the reason we have to worry is because the same people who build websites like healthcare.gov are the same people who have built the infrastructure technologically of our country. And I only use healthcare.gov because that's the one people know about. In fact, 9 out of 10 projects, IT projects in this country that cost more than $10 million, fail. 9 out of 10. So that's our cybersecurity. You talk to Clay Johnson. He's a former technology fellow at the White House, innovation fellow at the White House. And he talks about how in his department, the password you were given to your email and computer system was your last name and the hire year. And if you didn't change that, and presuming lots of people don't change that, you could get access to whatever.
Wow.
This is a systemic problem. And part of the issue is that we do not make it easy for our federal government to be nimble. I understand the need to have checks and balances to make sure you're not giving contracts to friends and things like that. But we make it very difficult for small, innovative companies to get involved with our government and contracting for these types of things. And we make it very easy for monolithic or huge Goliath-type corporations to build websites for $1 billion when it could be done for $20 million.
That's fascinating. That's really interesting. So let's talk about the sanctions. right? So what type of sanctions are we talking about above and beyond what we already have?
Well, like I said, it's mostly a symbolic thing. We sanction their intelligence agency. We sanction the group that acts as sort of the arms dealer for North Korea, and one other group that is part of the government. So it's, there's not the impact. Basically, it's not there because we already have so many sanctions.
This isn't going to turn the tide. Yeah.
No, but it's certainly showing that we are willing, as you said, doubling down on the fact that this was North Korea. They also lashed out at the U.S. yesterday, said that we were expressing hostility towards them by suggesting this was them. And they the North Koreans did bring up the fact that others have suggested it was insiders from Sony. So they're at least following the news enough to know that happened.
What's the next step here? Are we going to put more sanctions out? Is this going to lead to more of this cyber warfare? Are we going to see more stuff go down, more stuff get leaked?
I mean, I would suspect this is not the last cyber attack of this nature that we've seen. I think, going forward, we're going to see more of this for precisely the reasons that Karl brings up, that, the infrastructure, the security in a lot of companies and in the federal government just isn't there. This is now a big question. It's been for years for the Defense Department of how they're going to react to this. You remember reports that the U.S. was responsible for offensive cyber attacks in Iran, trying to break up their nuclear development. But I think the question of, what should our response be if we get attacked like this? I think that's something you're going to see going forward.
Yeah. All right, let's take a quick break. It's 43 minutes past the hour. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today, along with Karl Frisch and Jeremy Herb from Politico. Lots more to talk about. Quick break. We will be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished. When they incarcerate your children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. Partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pacman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pacman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. Follow us on Twitter at BP Show. At BP Show. I am joined by Karl Frisch, Democratic strategist. Karl, happy 2015.
You as well.
And Jeremy Herb from Politico, defense reporter for Politico. Jeremy, thank you for being here. So you've probably all seen this by now, this footage of Chris Christie at a football game last night. Here's what happened. Chris Christie...
Please don't make a pigskin joke.
I promise I won't. Chris Christie's a big Cowboys fan, apparently. So he was at the game last night, the wild card game. The Cowboys were playing the Lions from Detroit. And Chris Christie sat in Jerry Jones' box, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. And the camera would not stay off of Chris Christie. I haven't watched a second of NFL football all year until yesterday. And it was constant Chris Christie in Jerry Jones' press box. And so the Cowboys came down to like a huge win, last second, all these theatrics, right? So Jerry Jones' box just explodes. Everybody's excited. They're hugging. Jerry Jones and Chris Christie, this other guy, come in for this weird, awkward bro hug, and Chris Christie kind of loses his footing, and he's like jumping up and down, and it's this weird movement of three bros in the press box. It's so weird. Now, here's the thing. Cowboys are like the most hated team in football, right? Like people just don't like the Cowboys. I don't care. I'm not a fan of the Washington football team. I'm not a fan of the Cowboys. I don't care. But I know enough to know that people hate the Cowboys.
Especially here in D.C.
And they hate Jerry Jones.
And not to mention in New Jersey.
And New Jersey. They hate Jerry Jones. They hate him. So this weird embrace of Chris Christie loving up on Jerry Jones. MSNBC's Chiron this morning, I kid you not, 5:20 a.m. Go back and check the tape. Quote, could hug cost Chris Christie the White House, end quote. That's where we are.
It was a bear hug.
I mean, it was a bear hug.
But what's Scott Walker going to do at the Green Bay Dallas game next week?
Dude, this is going to be fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Is Chris Christie going to be it's in Green Bay?
It's in Green Bay, right.
Scott Walker.
Is it going to be fascinating?
He's going to be out.
Well, it's going to be. You're right. I mean, it's not really going to be fascinating, but it's going to be interesting to see how Scott Walker. Is he going to be in the press box
or in the nosebleeds?
Or in the nosebleeds with the common man?
Here's the issue with sports and politics. I mean, forget the sports, right? What it's really doing is sports connect on a human and emotional level, right? So this is how it's going to be for me for the next several weeks. When I was in Cuba.
Yeah.
Like in Cuba, it's a little different. They don't have football, but they have baseball. And my boyfriend and I got to go hang out with the Industrialis because in Cuba you can hang out with the pro baseball team. We went and watched them practice. We hung out with them, and you connect on an emotional level with sports. And I think that what Christie can hope for is maybe a little Texas love out of this. I don't think it helps him in a lot of different places. There's a risk in being too enmeshed with athletics too when you're running for president. We've seen candidates. Hillary Clinton had problems when she ran for the Senate, you don't want to be the person who's on the wrong side of a choice. So sometimes biting your tongue or keeping your mouth shut, which is obviously a problem for Chris Christie in more ways than one, is the best path to not letting it interfere with your chances.
So now Chris Christie has aligned himself with the Cowboys so much that, look, I don't know if they're going to win or lose. I'm not pulling for anybody, but I think it's highly unlikely to say they go all the way to the Super Bowl. Not highly unlikely, but unlikely they go all the way to the Super Bowl. So what's going to happen when they lose? He's tied himself to a loser. What does this mean for 2016?
He's going to go on a bender.
Yeah, right? It's going to be bad.
He's going to go to a White Castle and load up.
Right.
He goes back to New Jersey.
Yeah. I don't put much stock in it.
And if they win, he goes back to New Jersey twice.
Yeah. I don't want to overanalyze this, but it's worth pointing out that a lot of people are talking about Chris Christie's warm embrace of Jerry Jones.
And yet, they still won't acknowledge the simple fact that he has no chance in HE double hockey stick of being the Republican nominee for president.
Yeah.
This is like America's mayor, Rudy Giuliani. He's going to be the Republican nominee for president. He didn't have a chance in heck. Yeah. He was never going to be the Republican nominee. Chris Christie hugged Barack Obama.
Yeah.
That's like Republican cancer.
Yeah. Yeah.
He is dead on arrival.
Ask Charlie Crist. Yeah.
Not just Charlie Crist. Rudy Giuliani was dead on arrival because he was pro-choice and he had gay friends.
Good point. Okay, so let's switch gears here with the couple minutes we have left, because Jeremy, I want to ask you about the war on terror, the war against ISIS. Right, I remember that was dominant for a little while, and then we quickly moved on. It's still going on, right?
It is. You don't see it on the news as much, but yeah, we're still fighting over there.
Is there going to be any kind of push for the AUMF in this new Congress? Is anybody really pushing for that to happen?
Yeah, I think so. Bob Corker, who's the chairman now, about to be chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, I think he's going to lead that push. Before Congress left, in that committee, Chairman Menendez, who will be Corker's ranking member, passed a bill in committee that would authorize the war against ISIS. That now is dead, and we have to start back from square one. But I do think the Republicans see a need to do this, and I think there still is political support on both sides for having a war authorization. The sticky part is going to be what that says and what it particularly says about the potential for U.S. combat troops there.
I have a feeling I'll say something about Benghazi.
There's going to be some Benghazi happening. There will be some Benghazi happening.
No troops unless we get Benghazi solved.
Yeah, another Benghazi hearing or another.
I would expect a few in the Senate since they haven't had them yet.
Well, maybe they can read the House version.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, this is still going on, I guess is what I'm getting at, and we're still going after ISIS.
We are, and we're still launching airstrikes. They don't obviously generate the same news that they did when we first launched them, but in Iraq and Afghanistan. And now the big thing is going to be training the Iraqi forces and some sort of force in Syria. What that is still unclear, to try and actually fight ISIS on the ground, because there's only so much the U.S. and its allies can do from the air to really stop them.
Can we actually train the Iraqis? I mean, we've been training them for a decade.
It's a big and unclear question, I would say.
You go back from 2006 on, all we heard about was training Iraqi forces.
Yeah. The argument the administration makes...
When they stand up, we'll stand down.
Yeah.
Remember that.
Well, is now that they actually have a leader who wants the training, who wants their forces to be capable. Maliki is gone. There's a new prime minister. Whether that means anything, we'll see. The training now is ongoing for I think it's 12 divisions in the Iraqi forces.
All right. Good stuff. Jeremy Herb from Politico, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And Karl Frisch, our good friend, Democratic strategist. Talk to you again soon.
Adios.
Thank you. Were you in Cuba recently?
I was in Cuba's a very interesting place, Peter.
I'll tell you all about it. All right, guys. Thanks so much for coming in. A very, very quick break, and I'll wrap up the show after this. Stay tuned.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is The Bill Press Show. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill Press today. Hopefully Bill will be back tomorrow. He had the day off while he's a little under the weather. But have no fear. We are here to handle the show in his absence. Tomorrow we already have a great show lined up. We've got our good friends Igor Volsky and Arthur Delaney, along with Congressman Dan Kildee for his first trip back in the new year. First trip back in the new year for everybody, actually. So good stuff. We're looking forward to it. It's going to be an interesting news day today. Congress, the new Congress is starting to assemble. What's that going to look like? We'll talk about that a little bit tomorrow. We'll continue to take a look at the Huckabee Nation. I'm trying to figure out what it's going to be when Huckabee, Huckamania.
Oh, here we go.
What you going to do when Huckamania runs wild over you, brother? It's the Bill Press Show. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press. Talk to you again tomorrow.
This is the Bill Press Show.